the game while you listen.
What's going on here?
This ragtag crew of adventurers is covering the problems of the average player.
Where should I begin?
Discussing the home brews, modules, and the latest content for all things D&D.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
It's Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything.
What you're feeling is so normal and perfectly natural.
With your host, the Pirate Captain.
Everybody loves me, and I don't know why. I'm an asshole. I really am. The Pirate Captain is a dick.
Chef Bolgg.
Let me take a couple steps back so I can, really get this point across.
It's bullshit!
And Loke the Bard.
Instead of making a deal with Cthulhu or, the greater devil, you found an imp who was willing to give you dark vision in exchange for a gallon of blood.
With a little mayhem, mischief, and a bit of bardic charisma, it's time for the show.
Well, that's right, boys. We're back at it again. It is I, the Pirate Captain, with me, bestest buddy Bolgg. Bolgg, into the camera. We talked about this.
Yeah, this me.
Into the camera, bud. We talked about this.
There's a camera over there.
Why is there a camera over there?
Somebody from the Federal Berber of Invavaga said I needed to be on camera all the time.
Well, I don't think they're after you so much as us piratical types. But maybe there's something there for you. What's happening, everybody? This is Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. I am the titular Pirate Captain. Along with me bestest buddy Bolgg.
That's me.
Loke the Bard.
Yup.
And of course, Mr. Producer over there laid back, chilling, thinking he's on. Hey, you're on the clock, boy. Make it look like you're doing something we don't obviously pay you for.
How's it going, guys?
Oh, we are a D&D podcast where we talk about all the things going on with D&D. We do this bi-monthly. You can catch a new episode every other weekend. You're normally on Saturdays. We've been doing a couple Sundays here just because of the way timing works out. You can also catch our Damage Roll show every other Friday. Where we talk more about the different things going on in nerd culture. We're going to get to the show today. Lots to get into. The new SRDs coming out. What is going on with the Artificer. The D&D Beyond changes that everybody already hated. And we said were probably going to happen several months ago. And then maybe if we get to it, this is more of a Bolgg thing. Dead by Daylight is doing a collaboration with D&D. And I think that's going to be good. But before we even get all of that in, I want to shout out our man, Jason from God Mode. He has a game that you can register to play, Rise of the Wild Knot. It is Spelljammer in his own created universe. You can go back and check out our old episode with him. It's a really great universe that he's created. I have a feeling he'll probably stream some of it if he's not already streaming with the other guys on this one. He's a really good DM, and he creates very interactive worlds. If you want to get in on this one, you can message him on the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition D&D page on Facebook. Very easy to get in. Very good people there. They'll help out and take care of you. But with that being said, I love saying that. With that being said, let's get to it.
Were you Ryan Bergara?
It's just something I've always found fun to say. With that being said, let's get to it. When I do other YouTube stuff, that's what I do. I always say. So,
shout out your other channel that's been posting, and you've been doing a lot on it.
Yeah, I've been trying to, and we'll talk more about that. This is not the time or place for that. This is about us here.
That's a pop culture thing, yeah.
That's so, let's talk. Let's talk the Artificer. I want to get this one out of the way because I like the Artificer. I think it's great. I lied. I don't think it's great. I think it definitely needed some tweaks. But there's a lot of people that just didn't realize that it was like it's crazy because people are writing these articles now like the Artificer is something that D&D's forgetting. But we've known for months that I would even almost say a year now that they weren't going to add the Artificer into the new edition because it didn't do very well when they introduced it. It's very niche. It takes a little bit of handling and it doesn't do a whole lot if you ask me. Like it's got some cool abilities, but they're lackluster. They just don't feel like they should work the way they are. And this would have been the time to go in and change everything and add some cool stuff, more like gadgetry. I almost feel like it could have been a great like James Bond guy who created gadgets for James Bond.
Q.
Thank you. It could have been a very Q-like thing where you could have built gadgets and stuff, not only just for yourself, but it'd been a really good support class to add like more things, and it already does that. But they're, like I said, the abilities kind of feel lackluster in a total.
Yeah, there is a definite hole in the current books and rules that the Artificer could have filled if it was done right. Unfortunately, it just doesn't quite live up. And they've said, like, from the very beginning, the very early announcements of what was going on with the play tests and what was going into the new edition, new Disney One, or whatever they're calling it these days.
I don't even care, because even they've slipped up and called it different things. So
yeah, but whatever it is, they've said from the beginning that the Artificer would not be in there. And then they throw in the old, oh, but it's in Tasha's, and Tasha's is still backwards compatible.
I still love that.
So I don't know why people are surprised it's getting no love in the new edition, because they've said from the beginning it wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it didn't even get a whole lot of love even after it, because you only saw a couple of changes down the line, because all the Artificer, everything came out in Tasha's, and then you only had Eberron that added anything to it. It added to everything but the armor. And so it was already not getting any love as it was. And it had the momentum of being a great support class. Maybe like having the artillerist was a really cool idea or design. Like, honestly, you should have been able to make your own Iron Man suit, is the idea I had with certain Artificers. Like, you're either building your own Iron Man suit, you're a heavy armored person, you can kind of like fight, you build gadgets that kind of like work and help with that, and they act and work like spell slots. Or, you're building things like, hey, let me see your sword, and you add a charge to it that makes it, whenever you swing damage, it does like a D4 of electric damage. Like, that's the kind of things that I was thinking it was going to do. Maybe even the alchemist just being like, here, try this, and you get stronger.
Well, I think they tried to do too many variations just by changing the subclass, rather than making multiple. Instead, making an Artificer, an alchemist, and a gunslinger, they basically tried to make the Artificer all three, but determined by the subclass which one. And the subclasses are only a little flavor to the class. They're not the end all be all of a class. So to change, an alchemist Artificer versus a gunslinging Artificer versus the defensive Artificer versus the robot pet master Artificer, those are very different ideas of what a class should be. And so what they've had to limit to make them all work with all these varied subclasses, I think those limits have hurt it. Yeah. Whereas if they would have come out with an enchanter who makes and forges magical items, an alchemist who makes potions and that kind of stuff, and then put out a gunslinger and put out the robo golem pet class type, something similar to a necromancer or a summoner, I think they would have worked better mechanically, and then they probably would have been more successful. And you also get away from the unlucky 13, which I think is another reason they're not putting it in the player's handbook, is they didn't want to have 13 classes, and they're not smart enough to think of a 14th.
I don't know. Like, at that point, I would tell you to go snatch something from Paizo's. Do you could actually just do the alchemist. I don't know. Yeah, you've mentioned this in the past, and I think it's a brilliant idea for something. You talk about the reason you don't play MMOs is because you don't. Sometimes you just don't want to be in combat. Like, you would rather have a game that you can actually progress a story by doing, manufacturing, like being a tradesman in a game, which I think is actually a pretty awesome idea for a game. Right. Like,
I'm a big fan of the open world survival. I know Bolgg is the opposite. He doesn't want open world survival games. that is my kind of game. That's what I like to play, because you go out, you fight whatever you're fighting in, whether it's pals, Pokemon, dinosaurs, whatever you're going out and fight, you gather the items and you take them back and you build your base and you upgrade your equipment and go out and fight bigger, stronger pals and monsters and get new items and come back and build everything even better. And that's the kind of loop I like.
Well, I mean, and there's something to that, to where you being able to play the game the way you want to play. Like, we've talked about this in the past too, where a lot of people get wrapped up around trying to do the most damage. They don't realize that there's other ways to play the game where you can go back in and be a buff class. That's where I wish they would bring the Bard back to. But you could find some of these classes and redefine them to do that. And I think the Artificer had the makings of it. But they also wanted to add that damage feature to it. And it's cool that it should be able to do something, but then its damage feature, the Artillerist, just was kind of very lackluster. You're like, oh, well, I'm going to set up a turret, and the turret's it's a whole action to break it up and put it down, and all these other lame things. And it didn't do much. Like, for the time invested into what you were doing, just wasn't worth it. And look, as much as I really don't think that they should be just putting out this new edition that they're trying to put out, this would have been a time to actually go back in and fix it. And to get away from the Unlucky 13, just pick some, go over to drawing a blank, Paizo's Pathfinder. Go over to Pathfinder, look what they have, because Pathfinder kind of looked at what we had and said, hey, we could do that, but we'll make it its own unique class. Which is honestly something I wouldn't mind seeing D&D get to, instead of like having so many subclasses. Just make more unique classes.
At his core, the Artificer is a magical crafter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the idea of it. How are you supposed to play a magical crafter if you don't have a base crafting system really fleshed out in the game?
Well, look at you there thinking on your feet. Well, that's been the problem too. Like, you want to be able to create things and stuff like that, but we don't have that. And there's some really good homebrews out there of like really good crafting items, but I don't know. It was honestly more of like an abjuration wizard without actually being an abjuration wizard. So like, them not adding it to this new edition doesn't really, like, the fact that it's still surprising people. Like, I guarantee if you did a poll, or I guarantee if you look up a poll what the most played class is, that one will probably be the only thing that may beat it. Like, even the fighter, guarantee it beats it out.
I've never played an Artificer.
I've played it twice, and I was kind of like, all right, this is not at all.
Underwhelmed?
Yeah, very underwhelming. Like, because I don't mind playing the support in a game. Like, it's okay for me to play support. I don't like healing so much anymore, because, I don't know, it's weird.
It's not special. Because everybody can heal now.
Yeah, everybody can heal. But I like being able to provide buffs and boons, and like banes and boons, to like kind of like help control the battlefield. Mm-hmm. And that's fun gameplay to me, because now you're actively doing more than what a lot of people would think. Oh, well, I'm only taking. Somebody did a really good. I don't know who did it. Somebody did a really good video about how Bane and Bless are some of the most OP spells you can get early on in a game. I was like, yeah, because a D4 could change everything.
True.
And I like being able, like, there should be more classes that can do different abilities like that. Like, and that's what the Bard could be. The Bard could absolutely be the guy that's like, you get a minus D4, and you get a minus D4. You get a +6 though. You're cool. It's kind of
one of those. In old editions, that was the Bard.
That was the Bard, right?
Bard stayed back and play the March to War, and you would get pumped up, and everybody'd get a +1 because of the war chant he was doing or whatever. And then he would sing the song of shielding, and everybody would get a +1 to their armor class because that's the song he was singing or whatever. And now it's he's casting the same spells as the wizard, but in song version.
Yeah. It's that homogenization of the different classes. But the Artificer just fell in between that too, because it really was. It was a hodgepodge of hey, you're gonna be able to buff your party members like the bard could do, but it was also the wizard, but it couldn't do it near as well as like either of those two could. Like having an abjuration wizard is like 10 times better than having any artificer out there. Like, and I know a lot of people don't want to play the abjuration. I want to play an abjuration wizard one more time because I have like this tank build where the wizard's the tank.
Yeah.
Because it'd be awesome. It's kind of like you have to use a little bit of like metagaming where you got to do it like perfectly because you got to have the dwarf abjuration wizard with the tough feet so you get all the health, and then you go out there and you just cast like shields on other people and it counts as your shield, and you just go out there and you throw hands with your warhammer.
Quick pause. Like, can you define metagaming in this context? Because like, how is that like how
that is like perfectly instead of like playing it, to me it's more like, hey, you got to do these specific things to get the most out of the class.
Yeah.
But like
instead of your background and your character stuff being based on in-world stuff, you're basing it all on the mechanics.
Yeah.
And I've tried arguing this point a couple times. I don't think that's the worst way. I don't think that's should be looked on as a negative way to play if that's how someone enjoys playing. And I know that's not a popular opinion at this.
Well, no, we have certain people in our game that is their jam. That is what they do every session.
Mm-hmm.
Felix and Bacall, for example.
I mean, not to throw any names
point a couple
out there,
fingers,
but you guys.
Point a couple fingers. That is what they enjoy doing. They enjoy coming up with the combinations that happen to take advantage and
these mechanics, the tools that are laid before them. Yeah. And that's why we get modifications eventually.
I mean,
I am very lenient when it comes to metagaming to begin with. And our latest campaign, I'm actually baking it into the system to get around where they can metagame without metagaming. So
God damn. I mean, that's the idea. Like when I there's different forms, obviously, like you said, there's different forms of metagaming. In this case, it's me, hey, this is the specific build that I want to do. Kind of like, not letting things kind of like play as they lie. Like, well, why are you an adventurer? Because I want to be a wizard tank, Harry.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to be a hairy wizard tank anyway because you're going to be a dwarf, but it's the best part about it. But it's just an idea I have. But you have these other classes that can do these things so much better, than why even play this one? And that's, yet again, it goes back to that homogenization of classes that I've talked about in the past, especially with like the bard and everything of like everybody can do what the bard can do what everybody else does. So why am I playing everything else? And so it's understandable that the Artificer just wasn't going to make it to this new edition of D&D. Like it wasn't going to work out that way. So no,
sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack.
No, you're good.
That caught me as like, because metagaming is a term that is thrown around fast and loose.
I mean, metagaming. All right, well, let's get into it then. That's the purpose of having a D&D podcast, is like to be able to talk
about any use of outside knowledge in the game or knowledge your character wouldn't have.
Oh man,
is technically metagaming.
There was a really good comic strip on that same Dungeons and Dragons page that talked about metagaming like that, where it's like how the different forms of metagaming, and one of them's like, it was more along the idea of they were like the different levels of it, and one of them was like cynical, where it's like homicidal and things like that, because it was like, oh, we're gonna kill this like 6-year-old girl because no 6-year-old girl's on the 4th level of a dungeon, and it's just like,
I think I've seen this one.
It's just like, yeah.
So why is,
for the most part, the metagamers at our table are just trying to be helpful. Like if there's something that maybe Loke forgot that is part of a creature, they're going to remind him of it and, screw everybody else up at the table. But that's what they're there to do. There have been instances of a certain Nigglewort maybe remembering things that a creature can do that his character should not know. But,
yeah, and there's been times where I have, switched the vulnerabilities around, or change things, because of course they know, oh, this creature is vulnerable to fire. I never attack with fire any other creature, but all of a sudden this creature, my first attack is a fireball.
Right.
That's the negative metagaming where
Right. Well, that's like a blatant example, but I guess to double back, like how there's no base knowledge that Wizards provides you, right? Like there's not like a it's the DM's
manual. That is or the DM's guide and the monster manual. That's your base knowledge of like, oh, I can just go study the book. I can go study all the monsters and see what they do. And
he means in game.
In world knowledge is based on the setting, which is
based on your background.
If you're using a campaign setting like Forgotten Realms, the knowledge base of the locals is going to be different than a homebrew setting, which is going to be different than a
that's fair. That's true.
So, for example, in my current campaign that we just did the 0 session for, you're going to have a high in-world based knowledge
because there's a lot of creatures around.
Yeah, right. And I've added mechanics to where you will, where you can basically use a scan spell and know what the stats of a monster are. You will know what its strength rating is if you've scanned that creature. Therefore, it's not metagaming because you've used the spell in game.
That actually be
whereas like the flip side is that in my 0 session for my Fallout game we just did, I made sure that everybody was starting at Vault Dwellers so that when the Wasteland opens up, you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And I will catch you in metagaming and call you out. There are some Fallout experts and some Fallout newbies, so we'll see what happens with that. So but yeah, I think the scan ability was the most okay, I can get behind that. That's a safe way to metagame.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a cool concept for even a class or like a backstory or a background in general is like somebody who's a researcher and stuff like that. And like you actually get proficient, like there you go. There's your 14th class, researcher, where you actually get benefits. Like it's a complete non-damage class that does what it does is it compiles information and that gives you this information for your players to fight, and then it helps out, and it works for like plants and animals and creatures and things like that. So you could actually use it to heal.
I still think we should do the summoner, and researcher is the standard attachment to the summoner class. The background. I think background it would be really good. Somebody who has spent time studying bestiaries and learning about the world so that they have more knowledge than the general adventurer when going out. I think that would be a good background.
Yeah, because I guess then the way I was thinking about it too ends up being a lot like the ranger, which is like their whole MO. But I thought it I think being part of a background I think would actually be better. I think summoner.
Well, rangers I think like our specialized knowledge about their favorite terrain and favorite enemy. I think researchers should be more broad. They have a greater general knowledge than
so then if it's going to be a greater general knowledge, then it could honestly just be a class then, couldn't it? Like why argue to me why it couldn't be a good class where it adds
in the current way D&D is set up, not enough monsters have real weaknesses that you could exploit.
It doesn't have to be like a real weakness. Like you could find that, hey, look, have you guys seen the new anime Cooking in Dungeons?
Yes.
Delicious in Dungeons.
Deliciousness in Dungeons. There you go. I've caught up to it. It's
Dungeon Meshi,
yeah, it's really
I'm
good.
a little behind, but I've seen like the first.
Go Senji. By the way, Senji's best character in that entire show.
Yes, he is.
Not because I'm a favorite for dwarfs, but yeah, Senji's the best. And but you think about it there though, where he has like knowledge of all these monsters and how they act and stuff like that. But that being like he doesn't like he's trying to think of it, not Senji, main character after his sister. Kind of annoying. Man, I'm just like
his sister's name is always popping in my head.
Yeah, that's it too.
The recent
it's not an anime that I've watched like 1,000 times over.
Yeah.
So. I can name to you every like One Piece character that's important, but I can't name you these guys. But anyway,
I'm a couple weeks behind, so
anyway,
it's not a very big one for me.
So this one, it's still really good, but he's not that great of a fighter, but he has such knowledge of things that it helps them actually do different, overcome certain monsters and stuff like that. And that idea right there is the concept behind the researcher. Like you can be, you're an average fighter. You probably have a little bit more intelligence and stuff like that, but you can see, hey, look, I understand that the goblins, they're distracted by shiny things, so you can throw gold into the thing, and it creates an action for them or something like that. Now, I guess it would actually become a little bit more of, I guess it's going to be a little bit more of RP style. Probably wouldn't play this outside of an RP campaign because you have to kind of like think on your feet because, like you said, there's not a whole lot of weaknesses in the Dungeon Masters. But it would be
the
something.
Monster Manual doesn't have those mechanics, so the DM would have to make something up.
But
I think for me, it's a lot mechanically to have to put on the DM and the player. I think it's much easier to just roll a d20 under a history check, and then about that monster. If you roll a nat 20, you got the stat block right in front of you. You know everything about that monster.
So here's the thing: you name the ability exploit weakness, and on your next attack,
but you just make it generalized.
Yeah, just generalize instead of like trying to be like super specific. I mean, because that's pretty much what the classes are right now. They're just generalized.
You spend research.
The low level being like you exploit weakness - stun. And it stuns them for 1 round.
Yeah, or just like it gives you a plus to a roll is honestly what I would do. Like,
I was just thinking like you could do it as you do classes. Each level skill be a little bit, you exploit weakness, which distract, and then that evolves to destroy weakness, stun, and then it evolves to add a vulnerability.
So like a second battle master, but it's more
tactician based.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Mastermind Rogue.
Based.
So I know no one here has played 4th edition, or if you have, it's very minimal. But there was like a warlord class from the 4th edition that let you basically be like a battle commander. So you could help your allies get extra movements or take an extra attack. It was really cool, and honestly, I've missed some kind of controlling.
We've lost control of the battlefield when we lost the bards. It's kind of along the lines that it would actually be a nice little subclass where you actually affect more, instead of affecting the enemies, you actually affect your allies more, giving them more of the boons than just overdoing the enemies. Like you could more area. So hey, here, eat this herb real quick. This is going to give you the strength you need to attack, or something simple like that. But I think I still think that the researcher could be a great new class of something that's not really done right now, and that's more of like I said, it's more of a battlefield optimizer essentially. Like, hey, we're fighting a horde of gnolls. Gnolls are favored towards red meat, so we're going to exploit that, and he gets like bonuses to these checks to figure out this stuff, and then when he comes, he kind of helps like make the plan and stuff like that, and he has like ways of defending himself. You give him the ability to fight, but when it comes to like doing what the other classes do,
you know what, I just had like a brainwave.
Okay. Call those thoughts, but yes.
Yeah. The class specific abilities are intelligence and charisma, and your subclasses are monster tamer, where instead of fighting monsters, you tame them to fight for you.
I like it.
You've got the commander, which uses the knowledge of the battlefield to help his allies move around and add banes and buffs, and then you've got the tactician, which is the one who does all the exploiting the weaknesses and stuff like that. I think that would be
so I'm with you there until the last part. Let's keep it that the whole class still gets to exploit weaknesses, but the tactician gets a stronger buff to exploiting those weaknesses. Like I want every one of them because like they're researchers. Like to say that I couldn't research something along the lines, but I'm thinking down the line that this would be your researcher would be they're able to exploit weaknesses all the way through. Like that's their whole design behind their class. Like they're able to manipulate their surroundings and the battlefield, but the tactician is like a specialization where it just does it better than itself.
I mean, that's kind of what I meant, but
okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying like that one was going to be the
no,
one
like
that could...
having general knowledge should be a class throughout, and having the exploiting the weaknesses of a monster, that should be class throughout. But it's how you apply those exploitations that matters.
I think that would actually honestly be like a fun class to play. Like somebody who's not, because I enjoy that kind of like manipulation of the field, but being able to go in and add stuff, use that scan ability you guys are talking about that you created, which is in like a lot of RPGs, like in Final Fantasy, like the first thing I do with everything is always scan, figure out, okay, move on. And it's something that would be it'd actually be a really great, unique ability for this class. Mm-hmm. And it incorporates all the information. Okay, hey, part of the things you bring in is your dungeons master, your monster manual, and then you get to refer to the monster manual for just the stat blocks and stuff like that. Like I think it's way better than the Artificer. Throw that one out there.
Well, and you could also, make, say, an Artificer as a subclass of the Researcher, where he then converts that knowledge into specialized weapons.
That's okay. That's a little bit of a stretch. I appreciate you trying to bring it in and keep the Artificer around, but I think it's a bit of a stretch. I think that maybe not everything has to be combat related. Why does everything got to be combat related in D&D? Like, why can't we have more classes that just
that they base their game on?
I mean, yeah, but okay. So let me rephrase that, because when I say not everything's got to be combat related, not everything has to be. I have to hit it hard. Mm-hmm. Like I have other ways of aiding combat than actually just hitting something very hard. My bad.
The party is in combat with a pack of wolves. Everybody kills their wolf. They look over at the Researcher, who is now rubbing the belly of a wolf who's lying on its back.
It's so fluffy. Can I keep him? This is the third pet you've tried to keep this week. I know, but the other two died. I didn't know what to feed it, but now I do. Because you failed the research roll and you couldn't figure out anything about it. You're like, oh well. And see, that's something about the scan ability you could do too. The scan is a roll to hit, and depending upon what you roll against scanning against him, how much information you get about that monster.
But yeah, I could see that being a class, maybe not put out by Wizards because they haven't had an original thought in a while. But
once it's not me.
My tolerance is starting to drop, because instead of putting out actual, content, they're just focusing hard on this new edition that isn't instilling any confidence. We've been saying for ages it's not instilling any confidence in us.
Welcome to the
is
show.
is anyone hyped for like
nope.
Not like I know no one here, but like is there anyone anywhere hyped for like the new edition? Like this is the 50th year of D&D. I could not give less of a damn about this new edition.
I am more hyped for the book that's bringing back the original D&D than I am for the new player's handbook.
This is the new set. Like everyone should be like fucking stoked, and I just do not give
nobody.
And it's largely their fault. Their campaign that this is not a new edition. This is not even a revision, really. It's just an update. That takes the wind right out of the sails.
Yeah, just call it 6th edition, and it's backwards compatible. There you go.
Even if they called it 5.5, which is what it is, at the very least.
It was 6th edition for a while, and then they really took a giant step back, and now it is 5.5 again. So
but at the very least, it's a 5.5.
I don't know what
there is no world where you can change how spells work, change how classes work, and still be exactly the same edition overall.
And work with the stuff that already is out there. Because people are going to say, well, this is better. And guarantee it. I still say this. I feel bad for every DM out there that's going to have to deal with this one. That, I want this one because this one's better.
I'm going to use the Great Weapons feat from the old player handbook because the Great Weapons Master feat is so much better in the gold book. Well,
so I ran into just the most basic option last night when I was making my goblin character. It gave me 2 different editions of the goblin.
Yeah, because the Mordenkainen's versus the Volos.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't fucking know, and I picked one, and that's like the most basic of choices. Wait till you have to choose, edition 5 or 5.5.
Yeah,
I would tell you this. It's going to be even worse. We're going to get a chance to see how it's all going to work because they have just announced that they're going to be releasing the SRD here shortly, and it's going to have little snippets of these new rules coming out for people to kind of like play test and see what's going to go on with it. And I have a feeling this stuff is going to like drop from orbit, like how bad this is not going to work.
Okay, I just need. Go ahead, Luke.
If you look back at the original SRD that came out when 5th edition came out, like there is going to be a lot missing. Like you'll be lucky to have enough to actually play a play test with. You'll have to like. I know in previous where you don't have very many subclass choices, you might not have some of the spells or features that really make those things shine because they want to keep all that into the pay version, the one you got to buy, which makes sense from their perspective. So I'm less optimistic that this is going to give us as much of a clue as some people seem to think that this is going to be the answer that shines the light that everybody will love the new edition once they see this.
I think it's going to be I think it's going to be more detrimental, like because it's an update to a lot of the player core and stuff like that. Some of the stuff that's already out there, but I just have a feeling it's just going to destroy people's faith in it when they see how some of the stuff is just going to work. Like you already don't have a very good foundation that you're standing on with this whole new 5.5. And you're going to release parts of your rules that are supposed to kind of play in and see how it's going to work. Because I guarantee you this is like just testing the water. You're putting a toe in to see how cold it is before you jump in.
Yeah.
And
I need to interject real quick.
Go for it.
Just to clarify, the SRD is what they put out that like you can pull up at any time without buying the books, right?
Correct.
Like,
yeah, it is like a free preview that
Yeah.
publishers can use to create their own third-party content.
Okay, so it's like how we have the 5th edition app, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, the 5th edition app actually uses more than just the SRD. They've licensed.
Okay.
They've licensed something where they can use a bunch of the other stuff.
Or they're not, and they're just doing it illegally.
or they're renaming the subclass something else so that they can still put a version of it that's the same that they didn't pay for.
Can you give me a quick recap on the SRD controversy of the beginning of last year?
They wound up.
That was the OGL.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I've had my wires crossed.
What they wound up doing is they put the entire original SRD in the Creative Commons. Is how they resolved the OGL scandal by putting it in the Creative Commons. As it basically becomes a license that anybody can use. I'm not a lawyer, so
yeah.
Okay.
Don't take what I'm saying here as legal advice, but it means you can publish anything in there with just a reference that this came from here originally.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I had my wires crossed, but I'm good now.
No, you're good. It really is. And so this SRD that's coming out, a lot of it's updates to current stuff that is actually live. And then there's going to be some add-ins from this new playtest rules. And if there's not enough in there, people are already going to probably have a bad time. So they've got to specifically cherry pick which ones of these rules are going to make the most sense put together. Somebody was saying that you'll probably see a new feat in there to see how the feat system works, and it's probably not even going to be a good feat, so maybe people won't even take it. Or if you're a featless campaign, you're probably not walking anywhere, but that's the idea. Oh, God, I bulged myself. But yeah, that's...
Yeah, the things we will probably see most, if they do this correctly, the things that were in the original playtest, the races now being called species,
stupid,
and them using the new format where they don't have actual half races, they have rules how you make the half race by blending.
You and I is going to make a baby.
Yeah, by blending two of the existings, but where they don't specifically have a separate half elf or half orc as a separate being. You have either an orc elf hybrid or a orc human hybrid. You don't have a half orc or half elf.
I can just imagine like the orc elf hybrid going, "Kill me."
But so I believe you'll have I don't think you'll have all the races or species. I don't think you'll have all the species in there, but I think they will have that. You'll see how that's going to work by what they have in there.
We'll see. They're essentially just turning D&D into like My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Like, everything's going to be solved with friendship, guys. While you're over there murdering people. Oh, man. Actually, you know what? If My Little Pony had more murder in it, I probably'd watch it more. All right. You got me there. But yeah, I think we're essentially going to be seeing a snippet of it, but I don't think that snippet of it is going to be enough to generate confidence or excitement about it. Like, I haven't seen that many people that are excited about it. Like, when some of the old books that have come out, there were more people that were stoked about some of the stuff. Like, I remember when Tasha's were coming out, it was like the talk of a lot of people, and we're just not getting that same kind of vibe from him. And I don't know if that's just because D&D themselves, Wizards of the Coast, isn't just doing a good job of promoting it, which they're not, but none of the other big names in like the YouTube sphere and the blogs and stuff like that, they're not talking about this stuff in favorable lights. And it's really this is gonna make or break what Wizards does for the next few years. Like, maybe this is a blip, and they see that it does meh. I think it'll do meh at most, because they're going to be guys like us that go out and buy the books because we want to see it and I want to be able to talk about it. But I think afterwards it's just going to fall off tremendously, like some of their last editions have, and it's going to end up at Ollie's before you know it.
I've spent the last 10 years accumulating, D&D stuff that I play with, and I do that because I've had a fun time playing it. But I have no reason to go and buy these new books because 5th edition does what I wanted to do. I'll take a look at the books because I'm sure Loke and Bolgg and Nigel Wart are all gonna have their copy. But like I have no personal reason to be like, I want to go buy this book. And I think I'm an average player.
I'm not gonna do this to my people, but let's just hypothetically, I get this book and decide I like it.
Is that the hypothetical, or is that the...
That's the big hypothetical, because I don't think that part's good. And the part I wouldn't do to my players, but that you could start to see happening, is my next campaign, your characters have to be built using the 5.5 system, or, because the new rules, I want to try them out or whatever. You don't have that book, so you're now going to have to either borrow my book to make your character or go buy your own.
Right.
And that is what Wizards is banking on, is that there will be enough tables out there that force the conversion on their players.
That just seems like an unnecessary, stupid bet when you can generate all the hype that you'd ever need by making 6th edition.
Welcome to Economics 101, bud. Now you're talking. See, you're too smart, so we can't hire you for Wizards. So go ahead and just... there's the door. See yourself to the door.
Yeah.
That's just how bad it's gotten, man. Like, I want to be excited about D&D. I want to be excited about a lot of stuff. I actually had more fun in that last 20 minutes of us talking about how to create a whole new class from the ground up than talking about how miserable this thing is going to be. And I don't want it to be miserable. Like that's a common consensus I've talked to about people. Like they sound like, oh, you're just being negative about it. I was like, I'm being realistic about it. How much of this is really going to play over that it's going to come out very well? Like, it goes back to that conversation where I was saying, look, how many people do you see hyping this up? Like, by now, they should have released it out to some of the bigger names.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I would love for us to be wrong. I would love for this.
I would rather us be wrong.
I would love for this to be the new coming of D&D, and it explodes, and now everybody's playing D&D at every table around the country. It's not going to happen, but I'd love for us to be wrong.
But right, yes.
Like that's the truth. I would rather us be wrong. I 100% would, because I don't want to see the death of a game that I love. But by now they should have released this to some of these big time YouTubers, these bloggers and stuff like that constantly write about their content to go in and play, and so these guys could come out and say, "Oh no, this is going to be great. We love this." But you're not seeing any of that. And then again, they would probably only release it to the certain people that are just out there, giving it off to Wizards of the Coast. But
yeah, I would not be surprised if we see in, say, July, August, we start seeing those videos, and they're going to be the 3 or 4 people that they've worked with in the past that they already know.
Yeah, that is.
So
read the script.
This is slightly off topic, but I think worth pulling up is. I saw just recently that there's the new Marvel Rivals game, which is like Marvel Overwatch. They're having the streamers sign like non-disparagement clauses in order to gain access to the game, and it's like that's not something I want to see become standard.
Well, a lot of companies are doing it because they want you to come out there and promote it and stuff. So instead of actually making a product worth promoting, they
just contractually make you unable to.
They're hiring you to advertise their product. They are not hiring you to give an honest review.
You can't disparage it, but that doesn't mean you have to say a lot nice about it.
Yeah, that's the downside.
It is a game.
So it is a game that I played.
You see this in a lot of the reviews that are going out recently. A lot of people, like, you go, as much as I hate Rotten Tomatoes, I still do. When I found out that they were being paid $50 to write favorable reviews from Disney, I was like, your soul is worth $50? You sellouts. So you're going to see that where they just write some of the most generic things out there where it's like, yep, it was a show. It did show things. And it's like, so it'll borderline the negative so close, but it's just a toe up above positive where it's like, yeah, it was okay. But
at that point, I'm just going to start trusting AI to start reviewing shit for me, because
AI is already programmed to say what it wants to be. Like, it's all about who programs it. And if you trust you're already trusting AI. This is why people go to YouTubers. This is why YouTubers are more popular when it comes to reviews of stuff right now, is because at least they're giving you the honest ones. And what are you going to do? Here's my ticket to go see a movie. They're not getting the pre-screening ones. These are the guys that are like, hey, I went over here and I saw movie A, and here's what I thought of movie A. This is why the reviews like Rotten Tomatoes and like all these article reviews have gone out the way and nobody reads them anymore, is because we find out that, oh, well, you're getting paid to say nice things about them, or you get these things in where it's disparagement clauses. Like, okay, well, then I'll just wait for the game to come out, and I'll wait for the guy that paid for it, bless their soul on doing that, for buying every game out there, or every video or every movie and stuff like that. And they come out there and here's my receipt. I bought the game. I'm playing it. It's kind of meh. Like, that's it. Like, for example, I've been playing Sandland. Great game. Dialogue's a little campy, even for an Akira Toriyama game. Very campy, but fun game all in all. That's an honest review about it, but you'll get these other people that have been like, the dialogue's great. I feel like the characters are just well connected, and the gameplay is very interactive, and it's, you're going to get that. So it'll be careful even of us. I would even tell you this, like, go play it for yourself and see what we have to say. And if it's something along the lines with you, you're going to say, okay, well, these guys kind of agree or disagree with us. But you're going to get a lot of these YouTubers and stuff out there that, yes, they'll have non-disparagements in their stuff, and they're going to come out and say it. Like, just listen to what they say, how they're saying it, and then
if it's corpo speak or not.
I wouldn't even say if it's corporate speak.
Also, if they include lines like "Wizards of the Coast flew me out to play," blah 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 blah. That means Wizards of the Coast spent thousands of dollars on plane tickets to get them out there. That means there's probably some kind of contractual.
I mean,
I apologize for sidetracking.
No, I mean, but it's a legit. It's a legit point that's going to come out. That's going to come out here in the next couple of months as we see it getting closer to release. Is they're going to want to hype it up, and they're going to pay certain people that they would probably even go out. I'm not saying that they would do this, but I have a feeling they would go out and find some no-name influencer who's never done really anything with D&D, but they have like a big following somewhere else, and they're like, hey, come on over and just say what you like about this, and they'll never even play it. They'll play it a couple times and be like, oh my god, this is amazing. All my fans should go out and play this game. You see that a lot with like the crappy freaking YouTube ads where people are like, I'm playing insert random game here. I don't want to call them out right now just because I've seen so many of them recently, and we all know one specifically.
Paid shadow money.
Yeah, well, there's one, paid shadow money. And but you see these influencers that are acting like, oh my god, I can't believe I've got a rare person on this first go round. Oh my god, like it's not like you can tell it's scripted, and it makes it even worse. And then when you actually go and play the game and you're like, well, this is nothing like they were acting, or you go watch their streams and they're not actually playing the game, like it's just like, bro, that's false. Like it's like false advertisement essentially, but they get away with it because they're getting paid to do it. So just take everyone with a grain of salt and find somebody you trust, whether it's us or
try shit for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't trust us. We'll sell our soul too. Pay us.
I wouldn't sell my soul. My soul's not worth $50.
So it's now Chef Bolgg and Lokes.
Lokes recipes for everything. We ousted the pirate captain because he wouldn't sell out.
Chef Bolgg and Lokes recipes for your soul.
I mean, like, it's not worth it to me. Like, I would rather you make content that people like, and then me come out and say, it goes back. I would rather say that I was wrong and this is great. And I have never had an issue being like, I'm wrong. It's okay. I'm wrong all the time. And that's the mentality I would rather have on this, is that I'm wrong about everything that they're going to say. But you can't pay me enough to come out and promote your stuff. Actually, I tell you what, you fire Jeremy Crawford and maybe I'll come out and say really nice things about you, just because I haven't dug into him and his terrible interviews and his terrible takes. And yeah, what? You fire Jeremy Crawford and 5-5 is the greatest game I've never heard of.
Will you be throwing a celebration stream on the day that Jeremy Crawford's departure is announced?
It all depends upon how he's getting departed.
That's fair.
If he's leaving on his own free will, like the president just did, which still raises a lot of questions. Like, if everything is going so well, why leave? Like,
right, that's jumping ship is not typically
a
great sign.
Yeah, captain goes down with the ship, all right? And I'm going to tell you. Now, I don't want to celebrate the dude. Like, the dude's done a lot of good work in the past, but he's definitely decided, like, instead of jumping in the pool with the water in it, he jumps in the pool with with no water in it and lands face first in the concrete every time, and gets back up and does it again, expecting different results. And you're like, bro, come on.
Right. No, that's fair.
So I think all in all, because there are some changes to this 5-5 that I do like. There are things that they took away that I really liked. Goodbye to the pugilist. We salute you.
Is there anything that Wizards, Hasbro, D&D are doing right now that you guys like?
Not everybody jump at once.
Yeah, right.
Well, we did mention that the book they have coming out in June, where they are republishing all the original material from
that's kind of cool.
Original D&D with the notes from Guy Gax. I'm looking
about.
forward to that book, and I will most likely, even if I wasn't doing this show, would most likely be buying that book.
Yeah.
It seems like such an easy fucking like layup, because you have nerds who love the brand with not everyone, but a lot of us have disposable income for one reason or another. You think it would just make cool shit and like us nerds will buy it, but
well, and
I
I think that's part of the problem though is they've come to the point where they've been the number one, TTRPG producer that they could just put out whatever crap they put in a book. They could literally take a shit in a book and sell it, and there's guys that would buy it because it's got D&D logo on it.
Yeah, because they don't know any better.
And so they've been shitting in the last 2-3 years worth of books, and now people are finally starting to go, oh, wait a minute, this
is about the 4th or 5th book that I bought that has literally nothing in it, and except for this giant pile of steaming dog shits signed by Jeremy Crawford.
5th edition, we're in the 40s for books that they've produced. There are 5 that I would tell people are worth buying.
Yeah. And that shouldn't be it. Like all the books should honestly, like, I don't know. How many books is the other editions?
Percentage.
How many books is the other editions put out though, like all together?
Like each I don't know that off the top of my head.
Can you pull that up, Mr. Producer? How many books per edition were released? Like, so we know there's like 40 books for 5 for 5th edition. How many were for 4? How many for 3?
But also, like, they did for 2nd edition. I can think of 2nd edition ones. They put out a lot more stuff because like you would get campaign setting box sets. So instead of getting a Sword Coast Adventures Guide book, you got a Forgotten Realms box set, which had, campaign setting information, special class information, there would be like 4 books in that box, a full map of the entire world, I mean, it was a big fancy setup just for where, 5th edition has put out one rather crappy book that nobody likes.
Well, I mean, I don't. They're going after a bad target audience of people who aren't buying their stuff. That's right. The honesty.
And then
of it.
They also did things like the complete guide to elves, the complete guide to fighters, the complete guide to So you had dozens of these books that were specific to what they were meant for the player, not for the DM. Well, the DM would be able to because
he would buy it too, but it was like we knew what we were getting.
It was targeted to the player, whereas these books all seem to be where they try to put the first third of the book is player, the second third is DM, and then the last third is just art or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't even give you art.
It's not giving me an exact number here. I'm still looking through.
Is there like a rough estimate though?
There's a Reddit. How many D&D official books are there in total across all editions? This guy says he's counted 343 of them.
Okay, so that's not actually like breaking it down by edition.
Sample 2 settings. Dark Sun has 32, Greyhawk has 32, Birthright 30, Planescape 29.
So I was looking for more of edition.
Yeah, I'm not seeing like a nicely like. I'm looking.
Well, like I was saying, that Birthright, they've not put out Birthright since 2nd edition. They've not put out Dark Sun since so there's 60 books right there, just for those 2 campaign settings.
So and that's something you have to look at too. Like they're getting more quantity over quality, and I think that if they would just come back in and bring in the quality, but even then they're not doing that right now because they're not listening to the 5.5 quality thing where we're like, hey, this isn't right. Instead of fixing it, they're like, we'll just get rid of it.
Yeah, and so instead of putting out a full guide to Spelljammer, they put out a pamphlet and call it a book. What was it? 130 pages total.
So it was
in the 3. It was broken. And that was broken between 3 books. Which that system is the system that connects the universes, where you're supposed to be traveling between. It's interplanetary travel where you can jump from the Forgotten Realms to Dragonlance using that system. I mean that is should be one of the most complex and big system books that they put out, and they couldn't be bothered to make it more, a full book length.
Yeah, and so like let's get away from 5.5 and look at some of the stuff that they're doing to Magic the Gathering.
So I have an AI generated answer.
Okay.
It says the original editions were around 12 books. Advanced D&D was over 100. D&D 3rd edition was over 300. D&D 4th edition was 150, and 5th edition was over 200. Again, that's AI. So
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, it doesn't sound right.
Yeah, okay.
That might be including third-party stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
it's still finicky. So
yeah,
but that's why I disclosed.
So let's not even get out of 5.5 and talk about other stuff that Wizards has done when it comes like building confidence into the player base and stuff like that. Let's talk about Magic the Gathering. Probably the one thing that is keeping them afloat, because they put out new sets all the time and people want to have the new sets because they're trying to play in the leagues and different things like that, because that's how a lot of nerds make money.
Or they're like me and get the Elseworld stuff. Like, I was playing Magic there for a little while, but I fell out of favor with it again because they're just the card chasers make it impossible to build a deck anymore. But I bought the Fallout decks, because I'm a huge fan of Fallout. Now they're releasing a Hatsune Miku set. Like, there are people who's going to spend money on it because they love Hatsune Miku. So they're making good business decisions, but as in terms of, how players are being treated, if you're not someone willing to put out hundreds of dollars on cards, you're not going to be even remotely competitive. And
but you also have like lore things that they're doing. People care about the lore to Magic the Gathering. Like,
I've seen very split decisions on this Hatsune Miku set. Like, some people are very excited, other people are like, what the fuck is going on here?
Before we move on completely, I've
this will be
found that there is a 48 is the current count for 5e official books. 3.5 apparently had 81 splat books.
So you think
that's not even counting the adventures and other stuff.
So you think about that as how much content's been released for 5e, and you can only think about 5 books that you would want. And I would tell you, if you take out the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual, that's still only. I wouldn't even give you 5. I'd just tell you there's only 3 books I would tell you should get. 3
books a player should get, and 5 books a DM should get.
Out of 48.
Out of 48.
Out of 48.
That is a terrible percentage.
Yeah. And it's not to be mean, but the other books just don't really add much. Like, I like Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, but if you're a new player coming in, I'd tell you, no, you really don't need that. Like, you just use my copy. Like, if there's something out of there you want. And that's...
really, if we're breaking it down to basics, there is only, as a player, there's only one book you need. Player's Handbook.
I get that, but I can't even tell you to get the Skag anymore. Like, there's no faith in the Skag. Like, the Skag used to be kind of cool. Like, whoever had the Skag was awesome because they had like some of the special classes that they added and kind of like some of the updates, the Swashbuckler and stuff.
I would argue that the Skag was never good, but it had classes like the Blade Singer that people wanted that made them buy it for that one class.
I like the classes that were in the Skag. I'd agree with you on the outside of that. So
because the rest of the book, because the classes section, you're talking one chapter of that book, because that book is meant to set up the entire Forgotten Realms in 5e.
Yeah,
and how to play a game in the 5 realm or in the Forgotten Realms in 5e. And it does a terrible job of that. But it has, like I said, it's got the Blade Singer and the
it says Swashbuckler.
Grand Knight. Is Swashbuckler in there too?
I think so.
There's but it's that in that one chapter that they have additional subclasses. They're good subclasses that people really wanted. But you don't need those anymore because those are all now been in either Tasha's or
Battle Rager. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Nah, it honestly doesn't matter. Yeah. It had a few of them. Battle Rager, the Banneret, Swashbuckler and the Mastermind, the Undying, Storm Sorcery, Blade Singing, like all those. Yeah, so it was like the classes were really good out of the Skag. Some of the subclasses were fun to play. I really love the Swashbuckler, hands down one of my favorite rogues to play. But with that being said, that's been it for Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. As always, with me, my bestest buddy Bolgg, Luke, and Mr. Producer. Don't forget, you can find us on alternating Fridays. So this coming Friday, you'll be able to see a Damage Rolls. The guys will be talking about some more nerd stuff. I may be able to make an appearance on this one. Not sure yet. I'm trying to work out some new stuff and be back on those. I do miss being in those conversations. You can always catch us on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you pod. I hope everybody has had a good one. With that being said, say goodbye, Bolgg.
Goodbye, Bolgg.
Say goodbye, Luke.
Yeah.
Say goodbye, Mr. Producer.
Till next time, guys.
As always, happy adventures. Yarr.
You've been listening to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Loke the Bard. Like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast. You can also find them on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search for Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. Questions, comments, and mutiny requests can be sent to bolgandpc@gmail.com. And as always, happy adventures.